Are you ready for a show that talks sports from the fans' point of view?
We've seen Michael Jordan score 37 points a game in his era. How many could he score in today's NBA?
There's not a player out there who I'd rather have than LeBron James.
Are you ready for a show that isn't afraid to challenge anyone when it comes to sports? If Adam Silver really wanted to fix tanking in the NBA, he would stop rewarding teams by giving them the best chance to win the draft lottery.
I mean, how many times will Roger Goodell drop the ball on handling domestic violence in the NFL?
Look, athletes have every right to talk politics, but if the fans stop tuning in, that's their right.
Then you're ready for Talk Back, a podcast where two fans debate the media narrative and discuss the world of sports as we see it.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to another edition of Talk Back. I am your host and producer, Eric Nesbit, and your host and director of content, Justin Gay, is not in the studio with me tonight. He's still on baby duty. Justin is joining us with Ringer.com software so that he can record this podcast and bring it to you listeners each and every week, even while he's on baby duty from home. So, Justin, you're in your studio at home, and how are you doing?
Can't complain. A little tired, but definitely not as bad as my wife's had it with trying to nurse this little guy, and he's a hungry dude, so he eats a lot, man. So I haven't had as bad as her. I try to take over and help when I can, soothe him, calm him, give her a break here and there. But hey, he's healthy. We're home. I can't complain too much.
Yeah, and the pictures are adorable, and you're a better man than me. My wife will probably tell your wife at some point, if she hasn't already, that we have 3 kids, and I've been about as worthless as a screen door on a submarine as far as it gets to taking care of the babies at night and that kind of thing. So I'm always fortunate that she does a lion's share of the baby duty because I'm really not good at that part of it. But then when you get the kids a little bit older, I like to play and have fun and do all the goofy stuff. So, of course, right, the typical dad gets to do all the fun stuff and mom has to do all the work.
Exactly.
So we'll jump right into it, Justin. We've got a lot of hot topics on the show for today, but we're going to run through them pretty quickly. Here we are Tuesday night recording as we normally do. So the baseball all-star game is going on as we speak, and we're not going to have an update per se on that game, but the Home Run Derby took place last night. So in segment 1, we'll talk a little bit about Major League Baseball's Home Run Derby. Maybe a touch about the season, where they're at, how that compares to the summer months in the NBA, the NFL, whether or not baseball is even relevant in June and July. Then we'll move it over to the NFL. We're getting gridiron action coming to us with OTAs, mini camps, a lot of news coming out starting from each and every one of these teams. And one of the hot topics with that is LeVeon Bell and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you'll lead us through all of that in segment 1. Then, listeners, in segment 2, we've got to talk about NASCAR a little bit, but we're not going to piss and moan about the action at Kentucky this week. We could, but we're not going to. Instead, we'll talk a little bit about the feud that's going on with Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., how we feel about that, whether that's good for NASCAR. And then we'll just kick it over to the World Cup. We'll wrap that up briefly with who won. Was it the people that we thought would win? How did that all end up? Who are the stars that rose out of the World Cup this year? And then finally, the Open Championship takes place this week in Carnoustie. Is it going to be Tiger Woods, another big name, or will it be someone from the back of the field that surprises us, a la a Ben Curtis? So all of that and more on episode 211 of Talk Back.
Welcome back to segment 1. As Eric talked about there in the opener, it's Tuesday night. We're recording. The MLB All-Star Game is underway in D.C. We've already seen Aaron Judge go deep, Mike Trout go deep, so Major League Baseball has to love that. But Monday night, Eric, was the annual Home Run Derby prior to the All-Star Game, and I really thought Major League Baseball has got it right over the last couple of years with this new format. I don't know about you, Eric, but I really felt that it was a pretty exciting contest. There's there's really a lot of drama at the end of these rounds. It's not like that old format where the guys just go out there and wear themselves out in the first round and hit a ton of homers, and then they got nothing left for round 2 of the finals, and sometimes the best player doesn't win. I feel like in this format, you've got to bring it every single round, but you're not going to literally gas yourself out, especially when you're the second guy. You just got to hit over what the first guy did. So I really feel like this is the best format. But from an excitement standpoint, how do you feel? Do you feel like Major League Baseball has gotten this right now?
One of the things I loved about it was the timed rounds. I thought that was a lot of fun. And you even saw it play out at the end of the entire thing when Bryce Harper is up against that clock to beat Kyle Schwarber at the end, and he's got to hit a couple of home runs before time expires. So for me, and the excitement that home run derbies are like what we've always done, right from backyard wiffle ball all the way through teener ball and high school ball. It's always about the home run, and we've talked about it on this show. Home runs are exciting. So whether you're playing wiffle ball in the backyard or whether you're watching the All-Stars have a home run derby, it's a good time when you're seeing that many baseballs leave the yard. There was 216 of them that left the yard last night. But for me, Justin, the timed rounds really added an element that I thought worked really well. So I had a good time watching it.
Yeah, that's a great point. The time rounds really did make it impact because literally you're watching a guy like Schwarber go down, 15-10, and you're trying to see if he's going to be able to get one more. Can he push that number out there a little bit more? When these guys were running down, even at the end of some of the early rounds, when guys were trying to chase and make a run at it, there was another level of excitement added in with the clock, and the clock keeps things running smoothly. Those older versions, if you got somebody that got hot and they were just doing by the 10 out, they could hit for forever, it felt like, and it took till 11:30. It felt like it took forever. I thought Monday night was just a really nice package that they put together. It had a drama. It had a ton of home runs in it. It had some bombs that Harper and Schwarber were hitting there even late in those rounds. So I really thought Major League Baseball, for once, Eric, it seemed like they got it right.
Yeah, and the only thing that maybe the critics can say is that the bracket could be a little bit broken in terms of how the players are seeded. We've seen a couple of times now where the 1 seed gets taken out by the 8 seed, and how do those seeds really work? Is it number of home runs, which is what they use, or should it be some other metric? Maybe something fun like the average distance of your home runs throughout the year. It would be how you're seeded. And so we've seen 1 and 2 and 3 seeds go out early the past couple of years. The only other thing a critic could say about it is that the winner of this home run derby was not the person that hit the most home runs overall for the evening. And so that could be something that people have a point of contention with, but I really don't, because it's round by round. Same thing with a 3-point contest, let's say in the NBA Skills Challenge or anything like that, where it's a new round. You see how many balls go in the basket. It's a new round. You see how many balls go over the fence. But Kyle Schwarber was only 6 home runs total short of the all-time record set by, I believe, Giancarlo Stanton at 61. Schwarber had 55, I believe, last night in total. But in that final round, he had 1 less than Bryce Harper and thus lost the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's always going to be something that people can complain about. It's just the way of the world, especially with social media out there. But I think in terms of bringing some kind of excitement, having a total that someone's hitting at, having the clock there, I feel like at least they brought some excitement and drama back to the home run derby that maybe isn't lacking. And look, they really didn't even have a tremendous amount of star power. Bryce Harper was their big star, but a lot of the other names that you really know weren't involved in it. So if they can figure out a way to get Trout and Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, all these guys into one, I think that would make it even better. But even for what they had, I thought they put on a pretty good show. What's amazing, Eric, is as much as we do these podcasts and have been doing weekly, this is really the first time we've talked baseball for weeks now. And the first time we've certainly led the show with any baseball talk. And here we are closing in towards the back end of July, and we're just starting to talk baseball. I think it really speaks to some of the dominance of the NBA and how they've continued to put their schedule together for the summer to really dominate all the way up really until the NFL is going to take over. And that's the other problem that baseball has is here coming up in a week or so, teams are going to start reporting to NFL training camp, and it won't be long before preseason action takes place. And MLB will once again be put on the back burner, where it seemed like in the past, at least, once the NBA got through their free agent period, it was all MLB all the way up until August. Now it feels like they don't even have a window. Do you feel that there's anything Major League Baseball can do to sort of win back the summer? Is this a problem with the game? Is it a problem with not promoting their stars well enough? What do you see as Major League's problem as to why fans like us that follow sports just really aren't interested in it?
Yeah, it's a couple of things, and the first thing is going to be the length of the season. 160 some odd games, I think 161 or 162, whatever it is, it's just entirely too long. People talk about the basketball season being too long or the college basketball season being too long, seasons that people look forward to and follow all year long. Right now, the teams are on average about 98 games into their season, some a little bit more, some a little bit less, but right under the 100-game mark. So they're over halfway, and yet the playoff races, unless you're looking at the top two teams, a lot of the bottom teams are already eliminated. There's not a lot of week-to-week excitement like you have, let's say, in the NFL, where if you are the Carolina Panthers and you're in a tough division and you lose a couple of games, we talked about that last season when we saw the Panthers go through a tough stretch, and it's like, oh, well, maybe the Saints are going to take this division. Oh, well, maybe the Falcons will. Then the Falcons lose a couple of games. It's week-to-week action in the NFL to where it's impacting the standings immediately. In baseball, you can go on a 13, 14, 15-game stretch where you move up or two, a spot or two in the standings, but also maybe not. Maybe you don't move at all in a whole month-long period, and sometimes you don't move out of the position that you're in your division. Maybe 90% of the season you don't move. You might start the season in second and then just tick for tack the whole season long, and you end up in September, oh, you're still in second because the worst two teams are still the worst and the best two teams are still the best. I think for me, that takes a lot out of Major League Baseball. And Justin, I'll tell you the other thing. It's the fact that they have ruined baseball with these large salaries for players that have 10-year contracts that end up being good at the start of the contract and terrible at the end. The best thing about the NBA and the NFL in terms of the way they do their contracts is you never have a guy who used to be a star still sitting on a roster 8 years later, taking up millions and millions of dollars of payroll and now being a DH because he sucks. I mean, that doesn't happen in the NBA and the NFL because of the way that their CBA works, the way that their contracts work. MLB is totally different. And I'll tell you why that matters. I was actually just having a conversation with somebody at a hospital today about this because we were talking about Manny Machado. And he's 26 years old. He's probably going to get paid a huge deal. And if it's an 8 or 9 or 10-year deal, then you're talking about what's he like when he's 35 or 36. In Major League Baseball, it's really hard to know what someone's going to be like in 10 years. I mean, in any sport, really, right? But look at Albert Pujols. Look at Robinson Cano. Look at A-Rod. Look at these players who have been given these monster deals at the beginning of a period where, yeah, they go out and they get paid and they produce for a couple of years, and then the back end, they're terrible. No sport will survive if the largest lion's share of salary is going to players who are has-beens and wannabes. That doesn't work. You have to have your stars out front, in front of the public, and doing the right things on the field to grow your sport. If you have a guy, Albert Pujols, let's say, who's, he's, still out there playing DH and doing whatever, hitting home run every now and then, but he's not the Albert Pujols that got the contract, then that's a bad look for the sport. And that really actually hurts the sport because the highest paid players really are the guys who are falling apart.
Yeah, to your first point, I really agree with that. I think it's just the length of the season. I think we've talked about it with other sports. NASCAR, we spent a lot of time talking about them. And baseball's got it even worse where 162 games, you have times where it's 10, 12, sometimes 15 games a night going on. And this is every single night from April through September. I think with just the attention span of fans, it's hard for them to just continue to track night after night, game after game, all of these teams and follow them. It used to be baseball's peak popularity was back during the home run chase, which would have been fantastic in today's world because with social media, you could have watched every at bat on your phone and streamed it. Major League Baseball could have done a lot of that to bring it closer. I feel like that's almost what they need. They need something, and it's probably never going to be a home run chase because they've got the numbers so far out there. But even a guy like Mookie Betts, can he continue to hit the way that he has? Could he make a run at the all-time hits mark in terms of average? They need a hook, and they don't feel like that they have